Amy Barrett Daffin from C&T Publishing. I'm the publisher at C&T Publishing, and today I'm so excited to talk to you about the Quilter's Project Planner. And this is everything you need to organize 12 projects. So let's get started. It's full of beautiful inspirational quilt pictures. It's got a place for your name, and then it's got a table of contents to walk you through how to use the planner. I'm just going to jump right in. So you have different tabs. You have one for your year, what you're planning on doing, your project planning, your tracking logs, any contacts that you want to make sure you have in your planner. And then we also have a reference guide in the back, and I'm just going to show you that real quick. So the reference guide gives you some specific things that you always need to know. So if you see a fraction, what's the decimal equivalent? I know for me, that's huge. I think I failed fractions in school. And then you've got how to take your yardage to inches and then to decimals. So if it's 3/4 of a yard, what does that mean in terms of inches? So it's 27 inches. So all that work is taken out for you, done for you. And then we give you a yardage for backing, and then some standard batting sizes for quilts, and then a couple different binding options, all the quilt sizes, pre-cut sizes and names, and then how to do the double fold binding method 3 different ways. So that's what's in the reference part, and then there's notes that you can take for your reference guide as well to add to it. So first of all, I didn't start with the big picture. I went right into my project log. So I've got 3 quilts in here that I've started with, that I've worked on starting in, I think it was August of this year. It might have been a little bit earlier, but I said August, it makes me look like a super achiever. And what I did, I've got 3 quilts that I've worked on so far, and one is for my niece Claire. It's the Tula Pink quilt that I made, and I'm going to show you how I tracked that. Another one's for my new in-laws. I got married a year ago in July 2019, and I'm making my brother and sister-in-law a quilt for Christmas. Shh, don't tell them I did this. And then next up, I'm making my best friend of 41 years a quilt for her new place. So then what I can do is I can quickly see where I'm at with my project. So these show you all the tasks in sort of a wheel, and so I just have been coloring them in as I go. So you can see with Claire's quilt, my first quilt, I'm all done. And then you can see with Robert and Candy's quilt that I've assembled it, but I haven't done the rest. I just bought the backing last weekend, and I got some beautiful Tula Pink fabric for the backing. And then for Sherry's quilt, I've made all the blocks and I've laid out the design, and I'm getting ready to assemble it and put all the pieces together. So now I'm going to jump right into the project plan. So for Claire's, I haven't written many of the details yet, and I will do that, but for right now I have a picture, and so I'm just going to use some double stick tape, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it here. And put it there, and then I'm going to put my picture in. And this is just a picture of her quilt I took on my couch before I sent it over, and it included palms and stripes in Tula Pink's true colors, and I made a little note that Tula herself sent it to me because I asked, just so that I have it as a record for what I did. I also have some pieces that I trimmed off. And the other thing I'll put in there is where my project came from. So up here, so it says your quilt details. So here I'll put the name of the quilt, that it came from Love Jelly Roll Quilts, and then the designer and all the specifics. And I won't fill this out because it's already done, but I do want to keep track of what I made. So then the other thing I'll do is I'm just going to put a couple of my fabric swatches on here, and I normally would cut them with the scissors, but since I don't have a scissors right now, just imagine that's what I just did. And I'll show you another page where I did it. So then next up, you can graph it out. And I probably will draw a sketch of what the full quilt looked like, or I might photocopy it from the book and stick it in there. For Robert and Candy's, I haven't planned it yet. Now here's Sherry's. So here's the quilt I'm working on for Sherry. And so it's my third project. So I put the due date of Christmas. And then this book came from the Cultural Fusion Quilts book by Sujata Shah. And the pattern is called Taran. And so I went ahead and I drew up what my block looked like. And one of the things that I realized after I cut the blocks is that because I'm left-handed and I always cut this way, the way that Sujata did it was cut the other way so that the solid fabric was on the top. So hers was cut this way and the solid fabric was on the top and then the striped fabric was on the bottom. And I looked at that and I couldn't figure out what I had done wrong. And then I realized because I'm left-handed and I cut from a certain direction, I didn't make that correction. But for me, that's okay. I love it. I love how it's turning out. And so I'm using, so I made a list here of what fabrics I used. And I used Jennifer Sampu's ombre fabric. And then I bought for the backing and fabric at Cloth Carousel in Vacaville, and then I bought some K-Facet fabric for the binding. So, so this is what the quilt's going to look like. It'll be, it'll have a border made up with these little pieces, if you can imagine that, but much smaller. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these in the book so that I have them. And this piece is a little too big, so I'm probably just going to fold it in half. But it just gives you an idea of, this way I can remember the colors I used and how I put it together. And then when you turn it over, I just put a bunch of little swatches in and just stapled them down. And I'll probably tack them down a little bit better later on, but just for now it gives me an idea of what fabrics were in there. Sherry picked all of my Aboriginal fabrics, which I've been collecting for 14 years. So that pretty much decimated my stash of those fabrics, but she is my closest friend, so I'm happy to do it. And then I also just cut a little piece of the selvage on the other ones, just so I remember what I used on the backing and on the binding. And then I sketched it out here so that you can see what I did. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to put a border all the way around using Jen Sampu's ombres. And so these are actually the size of those little strips. So what I did, it called for 5-inch binding all the way, or border all the way around. And I thought, and it called for cutting all those strips and then cutting them 5 inches and sewing them together. And because I like to do everything as quickly and efficiently as possible, as if I were my own personal factory, I did the whole length of the fabric, sewed all the strips together, and then cut them apart, which is what this is a photo of all those strips hanging over my chair. And then I cut them into the 5-inch strips. So that way I put those strip sets together super fast, and it made me happy. And then here's my sketch of the quilt and my math for what I need. So that's how you use the planner, and it's a lot of fun. And so this is our first one. So this is our Quilters Project Planner. And in a future video, we are going to show you, we did one for knitters and crocheters. And then, shh, don't tell anyone, but we have one coming out for embroidery in the spring by our very own Kristen Brown. And it's full of all sorts of cool stuff. In the back of the knit and crochet one, we put in all the really key information that you can get from the Yarn Advisory Council. And so it's just packed full of great resources. And that was put together by our very own Sophie Scardacci. And so those 3 planners, I believe they're all $19.95. They're an awesome resource, and once you're done with one, you can just get another one because there's no dates or anything. So this is just your project planner to use to keep you organized, and that way you have a historical record, and it's much nicer than using a spiral notebook or something like that. So thank you so much. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to CNT Publishing's YouTube channel. And until the next time I see you, take care and bye-bye.